In June 2025, a Danish pharma company landed in India with a drug that it had spent over a decade building. Novo Nordisk had created the obesity drug market almost single handedly. Its molecule, semaglutide, was the science behind Ozempic and Wegovy. These drugs had reshaped medicine and made Novo one of the most valuable companies in Europe. India was meant to be the next chapter. But when Novo arrived, something was off. The shelves that it had imagined for Wegovy already had a rival on them. Eli Lilly, an American pharma company, had launched Mounjaro, a competing obesity drug, 3 months earlier. And Mounjaro had taken off in India. It became the fastest drug in Indian history to cross 1 crore rupees in cumulative sales. Within 6 months, it was outselling Wegovy 10 to 1. So, Novo cut its prices sharply by 37% within the first 5 months of launch. Still, the gap did not close. And then, earlier this month, the other shoe dropped. Semaglutide's patent expired in India. And the molecule that Novo had guarded for 20 years is now fair game. Indian generic manufacturers like Dr. Reddy's, Lupin, and others had been waiting with bated breath for this day to arrive. Prices for these drugs are going to fall by 85 to 90% in the country. So, in the space of 9 months, Novo has gone from being a market pioneer to one among many, many players. And what happened next is where the story gets quite interesting because Novo's response to all of this has been in motion for a long time before the patent expired. And it has very little to do with drugs. Welcome to Daybreak, a business podcast from the Kent. I'm your host Snigdha Sharma, and I don't chase the news cycle. Instead, every day of the week, my colleague Rachel Varghese and I will come to you with one business story that is worth understanding and worth your time. Today is Tuesday, the 31st of March. Novo had every structural advantage going in. It entered the GLP-1 drug space in 2010 with Victoza, a diabetes injectable. And that is a 12-year head start on Eli Lilly. Head starts, however, do have a way of being overtaken. When Eli Lilly launched Mounjaro globally in 2022, it came with stronger clinical trial results and a faster supply ramp-up. It priced aggressively, and when it came to India, it moved very fast, arriving 3 months before Wegovy and snatching the first mover advantage Novo had been counting on. A pharma industry expert described Novo's pricing situation quite bluntly to my colleague, the Ken reporter Sudesh Nare. They said the market had spoken and it hadn't chosen Wegovy at its original price point. Novo's revenue numbers told the same story. Ozempic's global revenue growth slowed from 15% in the second quarter of 2025 to just 3% in the third quarter. And Wegovy's growth dropped from 67% to 18% in the same period. With the patent expiry now here, Novo has tried several moves to protect its position. In November 2025, it partnered with the Pune-based M-Cure Pharmaceuticals to distribute a version of Wegovy under a new brand called Povestra. In February, it gave Abbott rights to sell Ozempic in India under the name Extensio. These are essentially Novo's ways of participating in the volume game, selling a cheaper version through partners while keeping its premium brand intact. It also partnered with Healthify Me, which is a weight management app that connects patients to doctors who can prescribe GLP-1 medication. The idea? An integrated platform combining drug therapy, lifestyle coaching, and nutrition support that could keep patients on treatment for longer. Because obesity drug drop-off rates are quite high. Because, again, cost plays a role. And so do side effects and the difficulty of sustaining lifestyle changes. But there is a catch. Healthify Me currently lists Eli Lilly's Mounjaro alongside Wegovy. It is also open to partnering with other generic manufacturers as well. So even here, Novo shares the table. The drug battle, at least for now, is a difficult one to hold grounded, and Novo seems to know it. Here is where its story pivots from a pharma company defending market share to an investor quietly building a long term position in Indian healthcare. To find out more, stay tuned. Novo Holdings, the investment arm that controls roughly 77% of Novo Nordisk, has been on a shopping spree. India's private hospital sector grows at about 12% annually. Profit margins hover around 22%. And private equity firms have recorded an internal rate of return of 21% over 10 years, outperforming the BSE Healthcare Index itself. For global investors, Indian hospitals offer something quite rare, which is basically biotech level returns in a market that is still expanding. Novo Holdings has noticed this. Its investment ticket sizes in India have grown 4 to 5 times in the last 4 years, approaching $100 million. The biggest move came in 2024 when it got a minority stake in Manipal Hospitals, the second largest hospital chains in India, which is valued at roughly $13 billion as of July 2025. Even a 2 to 3% stake in Manipal would translate to around $390 million in value. That deal was Novo Holdings' largest investment in Asia that year. And then in January this year, 2026, it acquired a 49% stake in Surya Hospitals, a single specialty chain in Western India focused on women and children. Single specialty hospitals are asset light. They break even in around 18 months compared to 5 to 7 years for multi specialty hospitals, and their margins can reach up to 40%. There's also a specific clinical angle to the Surya bet. 1 in 6 pregnant women in India develop gestational diabetes annually. And that is a patient population that sits squarely within Novo's wider drug portfolio: insulin, GLP-1 therapies, and beyond. Apart from hospitals, Novo Holdings has backed Cure AI, an AI diagnostics platform now valued at over $260 million. It has also invested $100 million across 2 tranches in MedGenome, a genetic testing company that now reports about $45 million in revenue. And in 2024, it took a 6% pre-IPO stake in MediAssist, which is India's largest health insurance third-party administrator. A healthcare professional with 2 decades in hospital finance put it quite plainly to Sudeshna. They said these investments touch different points of a patient's healthcare journey, and that is the point. You see, Novo cannot force doctors and hospitals that it owns to prescribe its drugs. That is just not how hospital medicine works. But it can be present at every stage: diagnostics, treatment, insurance, follow up care. A former Novo Nordisk employee offered a measured take on the generics threat. They said new manufacturers still have to prove quality and publish clinical work. Innovators typically retain a proportional share of the market. The collapse of Novo's drug business in India remains an open question. But the deeper signal here is this: Novo is building for a future where the drug alone may not be enough. The obesity market is being commoditized. The real game now is owning the infrastructure around it: the hospitals, the data, the patient relationship. In India, that infrastructure is still being built, and Novo Holdings is buying into it piece by piece.
Daybreak is produced from the newsroom of The Ken, India's first subscriber-focused business news platform. What you're listening to is just a small sample of our subscriber-only offerings, and a full subscription offers daily, long-form feature stories, newsletters, and a whole bunch of premium podcasts. To subscribe, head to theken.com and click on the red subscribe button on the top of the website. Today's episode was hosted and produced by my colleague Snigdha Sharma and edited by Rajiv CN.